Hello, evening, everyone. Awesome, we are live. Well, welcome. Thanks for having me. Let me skip the ad that's going on the screen right here. Here we go. Hey, everyone, this is Daniel Beer, and you may know me from Creepshow 2 or Point Break or Dying Young or a bunch of our television shows, but I have a feeling most of you know me from Creepshow 2. And first, I'd just like to say I'd like to thank Indie Horror TV and Robert for having me on. I really support what he's doing here, which is supporting independent horror filmmakers, and I think I just think that's great what he's doing here. So thanks for having me on, Robert. I started at age 18. The question is, tell us how you got into acting. So I started at 18 and I moved to New York City right after I graduated from high school. And I started studying right away. And I really didn't know anybody in New York. And I became a member of the Actors Studio about a year or two later. How did I land Creepshow 2? Um, it's actually a very good story. So I think I was 19 or 20, and my then agent Michael Kingman, who has since passed away, um, said there was an audition for a horror film, Creepshow 2, and he originally submitted me for the role of Deke. Uh, Cisco, right? I'm Pancho. He was Cisco, right? Um, I'm getting a bunch of questions here. Let me how I I'm still. Let me finish answering how I got the role. So I was originally submitted for the role of Deke, but I was too skinny, and they couldn't find the role of Randy, and they went to Los Angeles and New York twice, and my agent literally walked me into the casting director's office and said, "You have to see Daniel." And I went in and read for Leonard Finger, the casting director, and of course Michael Gornick, the director. And I remember I had to do a scene where the blob was coming up, and I had to be scared of the blob. And they asked me some questions, and I said, "Well, the blob's not here, so I have to come up with something else to make me scared." So I ended up getting the role, but like like I said, I was submitted for a different role, and they didn't want to see me, but they couldn't find who they wanted, and then I eventually got cast. Okay, I have another question here from. I love these names, Mr. Skeeter Buster. How involved was Stephen King in the filming process for Creepshow 2? I never saw him. I never saw Steven. I don't know how involved he was. So I don't know. I really don't know. Had I had I seen the previous Creepshow prior to auditioning? No, no, and I think I've seen bits and pieces of it since then, but no, no, I hadn't seen it. No. I have a question for Mr. Skeeter Buster. Um, what was your first experience after seeing Creepshow 2? You can go ahead and type it in. Yeah, what was your first experience? Like, how did you feel? Why do you like it so much? It's something I ask my fans on my fan page, and I'm always fascinated by the responses. So Indie Horror answered my question about what he felt about seeing Creepshow. He said, "I'm not MSB, meaning Mr. Skeeter Buster, but I can articulate my thought on that one. I was a kid in Cub Scouts camping maybe 2 weeks ago after I saw it, and in the lake where we were camping, a similar looking a similar looking blob. In fact, a bunch of my friends had seen the film. We were freaked the F out by it, of us touch the water." That's great. That's great. Mr. Skeeter Buster wrote, answer the question. I love the throwback to the old style horror comics, and I'm a huge fan of anthologies. Mr. Skeeter, it's interesting you say that. I have a lot of people on my fan page, and a lot of people, say they love the old style horror comics and the old style horror movies. So that's interesting. You're not alone in feeling that way. EC comics are great, but I was never a big comic book fan. But I always wanted to read those. I'm not a big comic book fan. I don't read comics. Right, so the stories are very clever too. Okay, I have to admit I didn't see it. Oh, this is interesting. I I drive a I drive a shitty car. That's a great name. I've driven shitty cars too. I have to admit I didn't see it until I was 36. However, I loved it and wish I had seen it earlier. As a teenage girl, my friends and I would watch horror movies at slumber parties, and this would have easily made the cut. Oh, interesting. Women are the biggest fan base of horror movies, actually. Here's a question from Indie Horror. Did the Tales from the Crypt and the Vault of EC, did the Tales form the Crypt and Vault horror comics? Not too sure about that question. Okay, Mr. Skeeter. What was the most interesting that happened behind the scenes for you on Creepshow 2? Interesting thing. Oh my God, what a question. Um, okay, so the most interesting that happened behind the scene, I also go into this a little bit more on my fan page on one of the notes, but actually, I came very close to maybe dying doing that movie. Um, and this is kind of a long story. So I got hypothermia. They had to shut down production, and it was pretty scary. The water was like 50 degrees, and it was the only freshwater spring water lake in Arizona. And since I don't have a lot of body fat and I was really skinny, um, I'm the one that my body temperature got the coldest. And um, I was having lunch, and one of the people said to me, someone said to me, said, "You're green. You don't look well." And the director said, "We got to take him to the hospital." And I remember feeling really dizzy, and the producers wanted to continue to work me. And Michael Gornick, who I love, and God bless him for doing this, he said he would uh, walk off the set and leave the film if they continued to work me. So I went to the hospital, and I had to take all these warm baths with oil and stuff like that. And then when I continued to work, I had a paramedic, and I could only do one or like 2 to 3 swimming scenes, and then I would pass out, and they'd have to give me oxygen and stuff. So when you're watching Creepshow 2, uh, I'm actually in really bad shape acting in that movie. I had to do everything I could just to stop from like chattering, my teeth chattering, and everything. It was awful as soon as I hit the water, and also when you they had to hose us down and get us wet, and then it was like a cold breeze and stuff like that. It was September, so and I have a permanent cold weather injury from it. I get cold really quickly now. So uh, so no, whoa, so that wasn't acting when you guys just said no. No, I'm telling you, I literally, and I don't take naps. I literally would do 2 swimming scenes. The second take was easier because I couldn't feel anything. I'd get in this little rowboat, and they put me in my room, and I'd fall asleep for 2 hours after they give me oxygen, and then they'd wake me up and they say, "Daniel, you have to do some more swimming scenes." And then I'd have to go out there and jump in the water and do it. And I never complained. That's not me. I don't complain. And Paige was in really bad shape. Paul Satterfield wasn't because he was bigger, and Jeremy Green wasn't that in that bad shape at all. But I was in really bad shape, really bad shape. I see that you had parts on quite a few TV shows. Which was your favorite? I noticed quite a few medical shows like ER, Chicago Hope, and LA Doctors. Coincidence? I drive a shitty car. That's a great question. You're smart. You're very smart and astute. Um, the same casting director cast all of those shows, and that casting director also cast me in Point Break. And the casting director's name is Rick Pagano and Debbie Manueller. Um, so that's why, and a couple of those I think were David Kelly's shows. So yeah. Hey, can somebody just write in there that you're hearing me okay, and this is um, everything's everything's good? Okay, great. Um, Mr. Skeeter Buster, did the cast members of the Raft interact at all with any other cast members from the other standalone stories from Creepshow 2? Okay, so it's a two-part question. Um, I know Holt McCallaghan. He played, what was it, Chief Woodenhead? So I know him, and we're still friends. And I met him afterwards through friends. Crazy Holt McCallaghan, great guy. So I know him. But anyone else? No. Okay, second part of your question, and also how long did filming run for? Um, my thing ran longer because I got hypothermia. Also, we had like really bad weather a couple days. It was a nightmare, man. It was a nightmare. those poor producers that ran over, and it was it was difficult. They shouldn't have scheduled the shoot was like in September, October. So yeah, I mean, I had a paramedic. Oh, thanks for saying. You sound great. Good. Good to hear. Okay. Great. Thanks for answering you loud and well. Great. I can hear you too. Awesome. Um, okay. Any new shows coming out now that you'd like to try and be a part of? Sleepy Hollow. That sounds great. Sleepy Hollow. Yeah. Agents of the Shield. Yeah. Um, yeah. I've been auditioning. So the last thing I did was a Hallmark movie with Patty Duke, which was really, really interesting working with her. Um, Called Love Finds a Home, but I don't think it's your genre. It's kind of a chick flick movie. Um, but it was really cool working with Patty Duke, and we got to become friendly. And actually, I wrote a short story loosely based on her called Facelifts and Cigarettes, and it was published in a literary magazine, 34th Parallel. So it should be on my one of my blogs, and you can find a link to my blogs if you go to my fan page. So yeah. Um, who is this I drive shitty car person? You're asking really great smart questions. Yes, it is true that I was in a Paula Abdul video. I think I have that posted somewhere. And I was in there with my friend Keanu Reeves. I haven't seen him in a while, but we became really friendly. And that was based on Rebel Without a Cause. And that was a pretty cool experience doing that. So if you're seeing me turn to my side a little bit, I have a laptop screen right in front of me, and then I have a bigger screen here where it's easier to read. So, okay. Um, Broadcast. Okay, Anita. So tell us about your mad basketball skills. I heard you were offered a pro track. Well, I have to tell you, Robert Poole and Indy Hort did their put a little chapstick on, did their research. That's really great research. That I did have, and I do have bad. I haven't played in a while. I've retired. Um, I played in the New York City West 4th Street Summer Pro Basketball League and the Bed-Stuyvesant Pro Basketball League. And I played West 4th Street is the famous cage in downtown in Greenwich Village. And I used to live right around the corner from it. And I played in that 2 years in a row. And the irony was out of high school, I didn't even have a college look at me. And then I started to play in New York City, and I got offered basketball scholarships, and I got offered to uh, try out to play in Germany because I was born in Germany. So I could have been like a third American on a team. And my friend Dwayne Martin, who you may know, the actor, we played against each other. We're friends. And he was a sports agent, and he wanted to get me to play pro ball overseas. But I was already working as an actor. I think I just completed Creepshow 2. So, and my New York City playground basketball nickname, this is real insider stuff, was MacGyver, because I could get out of anything on the court. And there was one guy on the court, Sherman, and it was his court, and he gave out nicknames. And everybody had a nickname. And once you get a nickname, playing street ball in New York City, you've made it. So I was MacGyver, and I was a pretty famous playground basketball player in New York City. I would get recognized a lot from playing. I'd hear my name being called, "Hey MacGyver, hey MacGyver," you know, anywhere from 5 to 20 times a week. And I miss it. I miss playing balls. So I Drive Shitty Car just says, "I'm just a fan." Well, you're dynamite, your questions. I love them. And he says, "So I checked out your bio as a sports fan, but as a notable boxing fan, I found this amazing. You box and train with Freddie Roach." Yeah, Freddie trained me. I started out at Phil Paulina's gym, and actually, I was somebody wanted me to turn pro, um, but it's nuts. I've sparred against pro fighters, but It's just crazy. Your head after you spar, it kind of feels like you're hungover. And I asked one of the fighters I fought against, I said, does this feeling go away? And he said, no, this is the way you feel all the time. And I said, I don't want to become a professional boxer. But yeah, I was with Freddie through all of his gyms, and I saw him pretty recently, um, outlaw boxing. So yeah, and I used to get in the ring and spar and stuff like that. So sports, yeah, I have really good hand-eye coordination, and sports just came easily. I also think acting is a lot like sports, too, in that you need to have hand-eye coordination and hit your mark and go through sequences of stuff. So, have I skipped? I like it. Have I kept up the mat? No, I'm retired. I can't afford to get injured. I also played in the NBA Entertainment League too for like 5 years. The NBA sponsored an NBA Entertainment League, um, and I played in that. Hold on. There we go. That's my NBA Entertainment, one of my hats, and I played in that league, and that was really fun. We were on the NBA website. Uh, News channels covered us, and I played with lots of big movie stars and rappers and TV stars, like everybody. I got to know everyone. Um, so yeah, but no, no. I work out 6 days a week, ride my bicycle, run, that kind of stuff. But I don't play ball, and I like to get back in the gym and start boxing again. Okay, what do you think of the NBA possible nicknames on jerseys? No, no nicknames. I drive a shitty car. Oh wow, that is awesome. When I think of Freddie, I think of my favorite boxer, Manny. Yeah, I can't wait to see him fight Brandon Rios in November. That is super cool. Yep. Mayweather boring, yeah. So this is the question I asked on my fan page. I asked, "Tell me your memories of Creepshow 2 and Point Break." And here's here's one that Alan Palk, if I'm pronouncing his last name wrote me. He said, "Oh man, so many. Creepshow 2 was one of the first movies I've ever seen. Um, my GMA bought, and it was very nostalgic for me. Brings back a lot of good memories as a kid. I tell all my friends about it, and they love it. And we always say quotes from the movies at work or when we're just hanging out. I also taught my friends birds to say Chuckamamba or whatever, from Old Chief Woodenhead segment. I watch it almost every month, and it never gets old. So I'm happy I found your face, and I get to see lots of behind the scenes stuff. And you're a very down to earth guy. Thank you. And don't mind talking to the fans, which is great. Creepshow 2 will always be a special movie for me." Okay, so here's a question on here. Zanman2K, who's your favorite director you've worked with? Um, God. You know, it's funny that question. Whenever I hear people say about directors that they like and directors, all directors, all directors are great. You have to be great in order to get to that level. Um, I like Joel Schumacher a lot, who directed me in Dying Young. He was he got involved. He's a very like sensitive, sweet man. So and Catherine Bigelow was just kind of for who directed me in Point Break. Um, she was kind of to herself, and she got very excited like when getting scenes and stuff like that. She was wonderful. So and Michael Gornick from Creepshow too. He was a very sweet guy too. Really sweet guy. You have to be nice, or else you're not gonna get a performance out of an actor. Okay, let's see. Okay, something 55 on here. Point Break. Swayze and Keanu carrying on a conversation while plummeting to the ground with one parachute. That's awesome. Okay, indie horror. I love Creepshow too. It impacted me as a kid. It came out right during the time in my life when I was really becoming a huge horror fan and stood out for me, especially the Raft and the Hitchhiker, which was crazy cool. Here's a little inside baseball for you, indie horror. Um, Lois Childs, who was in The Hitcher, I actually did a Michael Jackson video with her. And I ran into her on the set. And the Michael Jackson video was directed by David Fincher. And he's one of my favorite directors that I've worked with a few times. I've done a bunch of commercials with him. And we were on the Sony lot, I think. And I said, hey, you were in Creepshow too. And she was like, oh my God. And the Michael Jackson video I did was called Who Is It? And it's the only Michael Jackson video that wasn't released in America. It was banned because it was too dark and edgy, which is unfortunate. It's like a 15-minute short film, and it's very like Blade Runner. And it was a gorgeous video. So there's a little behind the scenes inside baseball for you. Now again, okay, got some Rocky Van Hike and Hike. Good evening, Dan Beer fans. Cool. Okay. Point Break, hydroxy. Without naming names, are there any actors or actresses that you work with that were just awful and you never want to work with again? No. No, I've worked with a lot of them. You can't be awful. You just can't. It costs too much money. And all those cliches and movies and things you kind of hear, that doesn't happen that much, you know. That's one of the things I really dislike about how Hollywood is depicted. I mean, I take meetings all the time for finance meetings. I'm also a producer, and they just don't depict really Hollywood correctly in that sense. But no, everybody's professional, you know. You got to get it in a few takes and move on. It just costs too much money. So no, I mean the stories of like Lindsay Lohan not showing up to work, those are few and far between. And she's getting her act together. I should read these out loud first, so you know what I'm laughing about. So Rocky Van Heineken asks, "What do you spend your Creepshow 2 residuals on?" I see you post on Facebook. I love one of the reasons I post those on Facebook is I don't think people in America, I don't think people in the world really have ever seen a residual check before. And I always try to put myself in the shoes of the fans. Like, if I wasn't in the movie business and in the motion picture business, what would I find interesting? So I post those residual checks, especially the ones for 10 cents are funny. I think I got one recently from Creepshow 2 for, I don't know, $25. And I probably put gas in my car. So, oh, by the way, they just released, a fan sent me a link, a message on it, the Blu-ray version for Creepshow 2, and they all loved it and everything like that, so I guess that's a really big deal. And they sent me a link, and it was cool. The review on the link, they have a great photo of the three of us or whatever, and on the raft and everything like that. So it was really nicely done. Yeah, I have done writing. I've been I gotta read that question out loud. Sorry about that, Skeeter Buster. Have you ever thought of doing any writing, or is acting where you want to be? Both. I'm a actor, writer, and a producer, and I also every once in a while do my artwork, and I have some of those photos of my artwork on my Facebook and on my Tumblr and my WordPress blog. Um, like I said, I'm a published writer. Did a short story that got published in a literary magazine, and I also have I wrote a novel, and a literary agent is reading it. It's been a little while, so I think I may end up self-publishing it. And the novel is called Silence of Remembering. The Silence of Remembering. And this is what my novel is about. I will just tell you this. I'll give you this much. So it's called The Silence of Remembering. And here is the synopsis. With her upcoming 10-year death remembrance, Twigs, who is adjusted to purgatory, must return home with her brother Alex. By all accounts, Alex is on top of the world, a handsome young actor on the verge of stardom. Having landed a role opposite Hollywood's hottest young actress, Alex is on his way to becoming a teen heartthrob. But Twigs knows things aren't as they appear. For the first time, Alex must confront the crippling memories blurred by a family secret the night of her tragic death. If her family remains apart and Alex is unable to forgive himself for what happened the night of her accident, Twig's worst fear will come true. She will never get to heaven. Twigs tells the story of this family's slowly healing rift and how a person can navigate or postpone the grieving process. Alex's past and present collide as he struggles through Hollywood parties, nightclubs, movie sets, paparazzi, and starlets, only to find he can no longer outstrip his past. Twigs watches him plot his course, offering her love and encouragement. Her clear-eyed perspective helps Alex to acknowledge his loss while possibly discovering a separate peace. So anyway, that's the synopsis of the novel, and it's told from the sister's point of view that's in purgatory, and it's really a story about integration, so, and about loss and the grieving process and grieving. Okay. Zanman 2K, I'm working on a novel too. Awesome. Keep working on it. Keep working on it. If you can't get a publisher or an agent, then just self-publish it. A lot of people are self-publishing. Out of all of your roles, are there any that you would consider your favorite? Out of all my roles, my favorite, I really like what I did in 21 Jump Street. I had a major guest star on 21 Jump Street, and the character name was Toadman. And I just thought I did a lot of interesting stuff in there. I was able to, here's an example of what I mean. I was with Richard Grieco, and Richard Grieco is a sweetheart. We had to wait for him. It was 21 Jump Street. I was playing a high school kid, and we had to wait for him, and it was me and a bunch of kids, and we were kind of like the goth or reject kids. And I was reading a book and drinking a Coke, and I remember the director was like, what are you doing? And I said, well, this is kind of what you would do beforehand. And they had to clear it. They actually called Fox and said, was it okay if I drank a Coke? And they said yes. And there's little like bits of action like that I do in that episode that I really like, and stuff that I learned to do in class, which was to kind of find an action. So at 21 Drum Street, and you can watch it online or find it on YouTube. Okay, if you could jump into a DeLorean with a flux capacitor, what would current Daniel Beer tell up and budding Daniel Beer for guidance. Um, it's a great question. So what would I go back and tell myself? Take care of the details. Work even harder. Don't be so hard on yourself. And I was wild. I was really wild when I was younger. I mean, wild. Um, and Yeah, I guess what I can tell anybody is work really hard in details. People always talk about why they want to be something or do something, but you have to take care of the details to get there. So, and I probably wouldn't be so hard on myself either. I hope that answers your question. So, can somebody type in here if I'm answering your questions well enough? Just let me know. Okay, the next one, murder mystery genre. That synopsis sounds fantastic. I read that book. I'd read that book. Hey, thanks for commenting on that synopsis on that. So, um, when I publish it, I hope you upload it on your Kindle or get it. So, it really means a lot to me. And I also, in the book, it's the story of a young man and his emotions. And I just don't think that there's a lot of books that deal with young men and their emotions. Um, like, say, Catcher in the Rye or Bright Lights, Big City or Less Than Zero type book. Um, and everything is just like about like vampires. And they just think only women read books or girls read books. So it's really about a young man. And the death of his sister, and the sister is she's really more of a metaphor. So, okay, let's see. Okay, so I can scroll up if I miss questions here. Okay. All right. I drive shitty car. Out of all your roles, are there any that we consider your favorite? Okay. I think I answered that. Yeah, okay. Okay, let me. Here we go. Okay. Okay, Dior. After Creepshow 2, did it increase the amount of scripts you received, and were a majority of them horror immediately? Um, I got more auditions. Here's the answer to your question, like what I would go back and tell myself is that I didn't really understand how the business part of Hollywood worked. No one really explained it to me. I didn't understand how to leverage, like, getting the lead in Creepshow 2. That opened up number 2 at the box office. And I remember going to an audition and the producer saying, wow, you're in Creepshow 2, that's number 2 at the box office. And I really didn't understand what that meant. I didn't understand any of that. So that's what I would tell myself, and I've gotten much better at that, which is the business side of it. I was just so artistic, and I was just studying acting like crazy. I was working my tail off in acting class and at the Actors Studio, and I did know how to leverage that. I really did know, and I wasn't comfortable with any kind of fame. I had people try to interview me, and I said no. So, thanks again for Robert for having me on here. I was really guarded, and those are all things that I had to work on. And I'll tell you a story. I had an agent, and I said they wanted to put me in magazines, teen magazines and stuff. And I said I don't want to do that, and she thought I was just crazy. And I said, can't I just go to work on the set and go home? Do I have to? I don't want to do any of that other stuff. And that just was crazy of me to think like that. Because actually I really don't, it really didn't interest me. I mean, if I could do that now and just go be an actor and then go home and not have to do interviews, I'd be perfectly content. It's funny how so many people need to have all that attention. I don't really need it. So, but the business side of it, that's what I would do better. Okay. What what advice would you give to someone who wanted to get into acting? Uh, get in a class. I'd go to Louisiana because they're doing a lot of movies there, and you don't have to be a name, and you can build your resume. So I'd go to Louisiana because there's all these tax breaks down in the state of Louisiana. So I'd go there. Um, I'd also educate myself in the business side of it. Um, so yeah, that's what I would do. You know. Are you Could somebody just type in, is the feed okay? Because my side's a little jumpy. Just let me know if the feed's okay on that side too. Okay, let's see here. Mr. Skeeter. Okay, keep up the good work. I'd like to read it. Okay, great. I'm going to click over. I have some stuff on my fan page here. Let's see what's going on. Cool. So I'm just typing in, we're live on Indie Horror TV, and I'm writing great stuff. Okay. You're doing great. It's appreciated. Cool. Okay. You you mentioned being wild. Was that weed smoked in the car for the opening of the Raft? Legit? Um, no, wasn't legit. But people tell me I look really stoned because I am working on what I learned in my acting class. It's called an overall, which means it's like a sensorial thing. So I was just um, doing and being the way I am when I'm stoned. And actually, it looks like I'm stoned. You look at my eyes and stuff like that. So, yeah, I remember my acting teacher saw the movie, and he actually pointed that out. So, yeah. And I'll tell you another thing. Satterfield made up that whole pass the joint stuff. We improvised a lot of that stuff in the car, actually, and that was Satterfield. He did a great job with that. I always have to ask, though, what would you say to your younger self? It always interests me, but I threw it in Back of the Future thing. Yeah, that's a great question. They actually do that on the CBS Morning Show with Charlie Rose. They actually have that, and I watched those videos. Those are really interesting. So, um, Rocky Mountain Heineken. You've done just about everything. Not everything. My other thing. I want to be on Broadway. You've done just about everything. Is there one thing that sticks out to being something that you want to do next? Yeah, I'd like to do I guess more action films. So just work more. You know, just been working on that. You know, getting great representation, and I actually have a lot of stuff going on with my producing partner, finance stuff, and I will come on Indie Horror TV when I book another job or one of our films that we're working on getting produced. And they're big films, like with name actors and stuff. I will come on here and talk about it. Good question, Mr. Skeeter. What are your thoughts on the current state of horror films? I saw that. I gotta tell you, I don't watch a lot of horror movies. I just happen to be in one that seems to be a classic, and people like, which I think is great. I like The Conjuring, and I think horror movies are going back to like the 1970s horror films. And I wrote something down because I'm actually really close to putting together a really big horror movie. Um, and I forget the genre. I have like notes all over the place here. I forget the genre of that, what that's called. But I like The Conjuring because it was intelligent and it had a story actually. Um, and it was very much like The Exorcist, The Shining, Omen, uh, those types of things. And I like those. Those are a little bit more intelligent instead of just slash and gore for slash and gore's sake. That doesn't really interest me. And it makes sense that a horror movie would go back to more towards the 1970s. And I think that you're going to see Hollywood do more of that. Uh, Getting rid of skip that. So I think you're going to see Hollywood go back and do more of that stuff. Um, so yeah, I like more that style. I live in that state. It's true. This is Zandu 2KC. You mean you're talking about Louisiana? I bet. Yeah, they do because you get a 40% tax rate rebate there. So there's TV shows, everything. There's so much stuff shooting there. Mr. Skeeter Buster, you are good. Good. Thank you, sir. Or miss, thank you. No, mister, it's min, sir. Good, it looks great on your end. Good, thank you. Indie horror. Not choppy here, looking good. Yeah, I have DSL still. I'm upgrading tomorrow, so that's probably why it's choppy on my side. You seem, Mr. Skeeter has a question. You seem very business savvy. Have you ever considered being an agent? No, I'm not that business savvy, an agent. No, nope. So I've done too much work as an actor, and I believe I'm too talented. So, and I've been actually doing really well. Uh, Rocky Van Heineken, would you support a Creepshow remake? It seems like every major, uh, it seems like every major horror release is a remake of some kind. Well, here's a little interesting uh, fact is that they've been wanting, actually one of the finance groups I work for, I not work for, but I work with, wanted to do Creepshow, really three. I know they made some weird Creepshow 3, but they want to do a real, like Creepshow 1 and 2, a really big budget Creepshow 3. But the family that owns the rights to the film, they don't want to do another one, which I don't understand. I mean, that's what I heard. I don't understand because since Creepshow is breaking down into different stories and segments, you can kind of you can do four more of those things, and it's fun. So I don't know why they don't. I don't know why they don't release the rights and do another one. But they've tried. Oh, believe me, Hollywood and not just like some small independent thing, but they want to do one. And yeah, I'd love to be in it. So they're doing a Point Break too, and I'm waiting to find out if I'm going to be in that. So I know the vice president of marketing at Alcon Pictures for that. Oh, and by the way, thank you for saying that I am business savvy because um, if you would have met me in my 20s, you wouldn't have said that. Have you ever been offered a role that you turned down or regretted later? I was offered auditions, like straight to producers for stuff. After Dying Young and Point Break, I kind of went off the rails a little bit and lost perspective. So that's what else I tell my younger self, or tell you all, is keep your perspective. And I turned down going in for some stuff, which you live and learn. You just learn by your mistakes, and you have to let it go. So, but I'll tell you this: I was cast in Bugsy. And I found out that I was cast in Bugsy a year or two after the film came out. The casting director I was reading for said, we cast you in Bugsy, but Michelle Pfeiffer dropped out of the role. She was originally cast, and I was cast as her younger brother when Warren Beatty comes in and catches Annette Bening with another guy and thinks he's, it's some other guy, and it's her younger brother. But I was actually cast for that role. So, and I was actually in Cocktail too, but John McGinley and I were in Cocktail, but the film didn't turn out, so they didn't fly us back down, and they re-edited the movie. But I had like 2 or 3 scenes with Tom Cruise, who, by the way, is a great guy, impeccable etiquette. Okay. Okay, Skeeter Buster, good enough from our perspective. Was Stephen King really involved at all? No, Stephen King wasn't involved. I didn't see him. I'm sure he just sold the book and took the money. Or was it just the name, rights, and the marketing thing? Creepshow too. No, I think he did what every writer does. You know, he sold the rights and everything like that, and his name is on it. I'm sure he really enjoyed watching it, and you know, all that stuff. But I wait a second. I think there's a documentary on YouTube, the making of Creepshow 2, the special effects stuff, and I think Stephen King was somewhat involved in it, and the special effects people or something, like they're really incredible, and they actually went on. They're like really huge right now. So that was a whole like pretty recent. They were all relatively new, those guys. So. And on that topic, the blob thing was, I don't know what the heck it was made of. Everybody asked me that. But in the documentary that I watched, it was, they put that together at the last minute because the original thing was supposed to be much more facile, I guess is the name for it, but it didn't work right in the water, so they had to come up with something at the last minute. I actually kind of think it adds to the charm of the movie that it's kind of, I don't know what the word for is, not quite as technically advanced. So, how do you react when you are? Could you just hold on a second? I gotta close my front door. Hold on. Hello, sorry about that. Thanks for waiting. This is the great thing about doing a live chat in your home. Okay, so how do you react when you are spotted in public? I imagine it's got to be a pretty good feeling. Uh, that's from Rocky Van Heineken. Actually, I've been really uncomfortable. In the past been really uncomfortable with it, and it actually wasn't just till recently, like in the last few months, that I'm okay with it. Actually, a friend of mine kind of helped talk to me about that. So um, I was at the premiere of Mortal Instrument of Bones or something like that, and I was in the lobby, and this like 15-year-old girl came up to me and she said, "Can I have a photo with you? I'm a big fan." And I said, "Sure." And I used to get like really uncomfortable with that stuff. So, so I guess because I don't know why that is. I just did. So, um, but now, yeah, it is more of a good feeling now. So yeah, and you know what's a good feeling is like just the chatting with you all, and that you like uh, some of the pictures and TV shows that I've been in the work, and hearing from fans on my Facebook fan page, and their feedback and stuff like that. That's kind of given me a really great perspective. And an example of that is when I wrote like your memories of going to Creepshow 2, I had one person write in. It was very, very touching. Write in how he kind of felt always alone, and then when he saw Creepshow 2, he could really identify with my character. He went into this really long synopsis, and that comment is gone. I reposted a note with that stuff on there, and, his his thread is gone, and I was really pissed off about that. But anyway, he said when he went and saw Creepshow 2, he could identify with my character, and he gave a big synopsis about uh, the Raft and how he identified with it. And he said after he saw it, he no longer felt so alone, and that was really moving. And that's kind of like one of the major things for me is that if you connect, and that's why I asked, like, what's your experience, what's your feelings, because I'm curious about how you connect uh, to to films, and this film that I was in. And he said it helped him have confidence, and he said he related to my character Randy, because Randy um, didn't make it. He didn't always make it, and he didn't get the girl. And there was the guy that was better looking and stuff like that, and everything. And so I thought that was really touching, and he was that honest. And I wrote him back saying that. And then another person wrote in saying that they they had something to talk about in high school to other people, and he didn't feel alone. And then girls wrote in saying how they watched it at a slumber party or stuff like that, or their parents caught them watching it, and and everything. So it's really interesting, and it gave me a perspective of, like, why to do movies and why to be in TV shows. Is it's all about connecting to the audience, and the audience being able to connect emotionally to it. And in Hollywood and the business side of it, that's not really talked about, and that's the bottom line. If people connect to movies and connect to stuff, then they're going to go see it. If they don't connect emotionally, they're not going to go see it. So, I thank the fans and the fans on my fan page, and I call it our fan page, for making me more aware of that. All right, I tend to digress. Have you ever attended any horror conventions as a guest? No, I actually have this conventional all-stars, and they represent me. But he said he hasn't. No one has wanted me to come. I guess I'm not a big enough draw or something like that. I thought Creepshow 2 and Point Break, but no. But I would do it. I can't fly myself there, but I'd love to go to one of those things, sign autographs, and make some money. Hell yeah, I'd love to make some money. Um, so if there's any in your area and you want me to come, call them up. He's got to fly me and put me up, and I'd love to. Any that happened to Creepshow 2 reunion, perhaps? I don't think so, but I'd love to. I know Michael Gornick does these conventions, and I'd love to. I'd really love to see him. I really would, because that guy, he stood up for me. He really stood up for me. He's going to walk off the set. Just a really decent man. But I know he goes to him, so I'd love to see him again. Since I was just a kid when I did it. So I hope that answers your question. Mr. Skeeter, nice. I love gangster movies. Cool. King is in the Hitcher short term truck. Yeah, he is in that. That's right. Okay. I always think of Jordy, the plant guy. Cool. Cool. I also happen to be I'm a horror icon. I'm on one of these Facebook horror icon pages too. So that's pretty cool, isn't it? So you don't see each other's chat questions, or do you? Oh, by the way, this is the first time I've ever done this. Cool. And I wasn't going to do a video. I told Robert beforehand I was just going to call in, but I thought, this is something I gotta get over and get outside of my comfort zone. So I'm a rather, I guess, guarded, or protect myself. So. So what? So you people. So who's ever? Let's see. Cool. Absolutely, I love to come back. Down to earth. Thank you. Any final questions? Let me think. Have you watched the Creepshow version with the director's commentary? I have that, and I'm embarrassed to say, I still haven't watched it. Oh, any final questions for me? I have a question for anyone who wants to type it in. Why do you, since you're fans of horror, why do you love horror so much? How do you feel connected to it? Oh, thank you, Mr. Skeeter Butter. You've been one of our best guests ever. You did an amazing job. It's been fun. It was fun for me too. But just who's ever, what's the why do you connect so much to horror? Because I'm fascinated by horror fans. You're like the best fans, and you just love it. That's my final question to you all. Interesting. So, Mr. Skeeter Buster wrote back to my coach. For me, I love the primal fear that horror brings to us. Interesting. So it's primal. I drive shitty car. Answered. I love watching scenarios that are completely different than my everyday life. Things that would never actually happen. That's why I enjoy horror. Huh. Interesting. That's cool. I tell you, after I saw The Conjuring, that thing that was terrifying because there was a lot of suspense. That's why I liked it, like Aliens. You mentioned how wild you were when you were younger. Can you give us a quick story about a wild time that sticks out? Yeah, I was up in Upper New Jersey in the country with a friend of mine who is named was Adam, and actually he was on doing Broadway Bound. He was on Broadway. Excuse me. And I got on top. I was had a couple drinks and I got on top of the top of the car, not the engine, but the top of the car. I'm 6'2". Pardon me. I'm 6'2", and I was holding on to the top of the car while it was like driving at a pretty fast speed. I was holding on to both things and could have killed myself. And also just wild. I just was. I had too much. And I mean this humbly. I had too much Brando in me that I was just rebellious. I just like if they said go to an audition in a suit, I'd show up in shorts. I just was just wild that way, you know? So, and that's how you get in your own way if you do that kind of stuff. That's what I mean, you know? So, if that, I hope that answers your question. This is a soul-bearing commentary. I grew up, well, great, I love the soul-bearing commentary. That's the best. I grew up watching horror movies as a kid. My childhood was pretty rough. I have a feeling that everybody who's a horror fan, their childhood is pretty rough. Stephen King talks about that. I don't know if you're aware of that, but he talks about a really rough childhood, and that's why he writes horror. That's what he's doing. And by the way, my childhood was really rough. I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. I said this is soul-bearing commentary. I grew up watching horror movies as a kid. My childhood was pretty rough. I connected with the films. I saw terrible things in the movie. I wasn't being chased by a killer. My life, no matter how bad it got, wasn't that bad. And people survived it was inspirational in a way to know that someone made it out of a situation worse than I had it. That's right. After a while, I just started enjoying the stories, the effects, the monsters, nothing else in film and film compares. But you know what I think it's about? It may pop into my head when I just read that indie horror, is that I think when you go to a horror movie, you feel in control because you know it's not for real. So even in your present day life, like now, or things are going awful in the world, or if you've had a bad childhood, you can go into a horror movie and kind of feel in control of it. So I have a feeling that that's a huge part of it. So, and like I said, I think most people that are drawn to horror have had rough childhoods. I think most people have had a rough childhood. So, I mean, mine was a nightmare. Okay. Mr. Skeeter nods to Rob. We all had a rough childhood in our own way. I think we connect to that. That's right. Yep. Horror movies are a kind of like roller coaster. It's controlled. Yeah, that's exactly what I was just talking about. It absolutely. You know, one of the reasons that women like horror movies so much because it's emotional. I don't know if you know that, but that's one of the psychologies behind it. I read that. Okay, cool. I wish we could have a longer discussion with you, Daniel. Well, I'll come back another time. And cool, regular public channel. Yeah, I'd love to pop on every once in a while. Uh, Thank you for Robert for having me on. I hope I answered all your questions. I hope it was fun. Jump on over to my fan page. Um, I don't I have like a shirt and tie on, jacket on it. You know, it's my headshot basically, so that's how you know it's my fan page. And I'd love to hear from you on there. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff on there. There's a lot of notes. There's a lot of like photos of behind the scenes stuff on the set and everything. So jump on over to my fan page, and I'd love to hear from you. And thanks again for having me on. I really enjoyed it.